Thank you very much, Chair, and I do appreciate the opportunity just to share a few moments on C-9 and the motion and the before us. And as probably most members in the House is happening right now, receiving a lot of correspondence, people that are very concerned about this bill, Canadians from coast to coast that are quite often, not really thinking about politics and about the impact upon their own lives as much as we might be wishing they were. They're writing, they're saying, how is this going to impact me? And I would say I'm quite concerned about the bill before us. I know that's the reason why we have the motion. Just an important fact is that the government legislation already has the tools that it needs to prosecute those who promote hate and genocide. It already has the tools that it needs to prosecute those who promote hate and genocide. I see this bill as politics. Surprise. And bad politics. And bad for Canadians. It's hard to believe that this legislation before us is here in Canada. We've been known as a country, as a beacon of freedom. People from all over the world have immigrated here. And this seems quite contrary to the values of freedom, of faith, of expression that we have had over generations. So this is an extremely important bill. And for me, it really reminds me of the direction of other states that have, I would say, banned scriptures, different scriptures. I think of countries like China in the past under Mao, communist Russia, communist regimes. Scriptures were banned. I actually have some friends that were involved in smuggling, not drugs, not arms, smuggling Bibles into the former East Bloc communist countries, where people would be imprisoned, people would be tortured for their faith, for having a Bible. Now, it moved in other countries like China later on. They said, okay, well, you know what, you can have the Bible, but here's what you can believe, or here's what you can say. You take off this section and this section and this section and this section. Tell me what is the difference here that was before us, Mr. Chair? You don't have to, that's a rhetorical question. Okay. This is the same direction. And I think we need to talk about direction before us. This is a bad direction, whether you are a person of faith that is Christian or Muslim or Jewish or even a secular, because you know we're talking about fundamental rights for all Canadians. And it's something I think we shouldn't be going in this direction. Now, personally, I'm a Christian. Okay, my faith is fundamental to who I am. It's much more important to me than being a parliamentarian. And it informs everything about the direction and values. It's a light upon me. It's personal. And this motion before us talks about, it expands, saying, hey, this needs to be more than just the faith. It needs to talk about beliefs and your conscience, these things. So this is like King David said that it's a light to our path. It actually it shines inside of me in the sense that exposes things that I need to make changes in personally, even as a politician. Just as a variety of things, it shines, and I think that we just need to reflect here as a society, as a government, as the House of Commons, as parliamentarians, about the contributions, and I'll make reference here specifically to Christians, of just the contributions of the faith, the Judeo-Christian faith, and I know there obviously others can speak to other faiths, but the contribution to society, to the very foundation of who we are as a nation. And yes, there's blemishes. People are people. I don't care what faith you subscribe to. But at the same time, you look at the importance of the Christian faith in terms of education. I was a teacher for many years and taught socials and history and looked at medieval Europe and just the importance of for example, the monastic schools where there was no education of the training of the system of our hospital system. Think of Red Cross, that comes from a faith background. Florence Nightingale. I think of Salvation Army. Probably the other members met with the Salvation Army when they're here on the Hill recently, talking about the influence that they've had, what the giving they've had as far as helping those that are in need, emergency services. It's amazing the work that they do. And from a secular, non-religious point of view, I think we all would say this is very commendable. But they're very clear, and they say it comes from a faith position of service. And I think that what is core, and this is what the challenge that I would say Christians feel. I think Christians feel like they're a punching bag, and what's so important to realize that so many of our perspective as a culture has come from a Christian foundation. Even the equality, for example, of men and women. That was not something that has always been there. But in the scriptures, it talks about no such thing as man and woman in the sense, not in biological sense, but in terms of equality before God. So it's always been a source of equality. I would say even those that can say they might be feminists. Some of that might come from even from a biblical perspective in the sense that the equality, not subjugated under men, but equal. And that isn't everywhere. And then I think about the whole issue of slavery. Christians involved in that. Think of Wilberforce in the British Parliament. Decade after decade bringing legislation in order to stop slavery. And finally successful. And, there's a song we've all heard. I'm sure you hear it with the bagpipes. What comes to mind? Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, written by John Newton in the 1700s. He was a slave trader involved in capturing slaves in Africa, or in the transportation from there to the New World, imprisoning them, shackling them, the terrible things. And what happened to his life? What happened to him? You read the song. What does it say? Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. Sorry. That saved a wretch like me. And I guess I'm choked up, because it's not just him, it's me. It really is. We all need saving. As far as I'm concerned. Sorry, I just put that out there. It says, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. And you see the transformation of his life. The transformation of his life from someone that is that position as a slave trader, as an evil person, and able to be transformed. And that's the message, I would say, of Jesus Christ, of the Bible. And that's the difference that made in me personally, and I'm speaking personally, There's a verse, I said this verse was made very much alive to me. I was in the military, it was in my uniform, and a verse that you probably may be familiar with. And the verse is what? The verse says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son," that's Jesus Christ, "that whoever believes in him won't perish but have everlasting life." And that can just roll off. But to me it struck, and I saw, you know what? You know, he didn't just die for the world, he died for me. And it wasn't say, well, because I was doing this bad or that terrible. It was more maybe my attitude of selfishness, everything around me. And I guess that motivated me and motivates Christians and people of faith to realize that, you know, I'm here not to give, just to give and under my own, you know, just accumulating wealth and accumulating experiences, but I'm here to serve our community, our country. And I think that we're all here for that, right? We're here to serve our country. We're here to serve people. And that's what the word minister, you know, you heard the cabinet minister, minister. We're there to minister, to serve. And so that touched me in my life. It transformed me when I was still an adolescent, and has been directional in my whole entire life. And you know, I can understand that, you know, you look at the scriptures, and the scriptures were written over, like, we're talking 3,000, 4,000 years, like a long time. And in a lot of different cultures, and we can look back and say, well, this here doesn't fit in and that doesn't fit in, but you know, there's cultural, there's generational, there's a lot of things, and it really does come together. And again, as a Christian, I would say this, that it says that it's summed up in all one word, and it says God is love. In 1 John, it talks about that God is love, not just filling up, but his whole heart, even in his regulations, even the rules, everything he has for mankind, even the structures, is out of love. And Christians, there's the Old Testament and New Testament, don't just we believe it's a whole, but Christ does clarify it right there. He says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye. But I say to you what? If someone slaps you on the cheek, turn to him the other cheek. And if someone persecutes you, then don't return evil, but return good for evil. And so I'm saying that's transformative. That's transformative. And for us as politicians with our laws, with C-9, to say, well, this has to, take this out, take this in. There's actually a lot of correction within the scriptures itself. Not correction, but Christ explains a lot of that. And so I guess what I'm saying here, members of the committee, thank you for your patience and not making your interventions in this time. Which I know, just to take some thought and realize, let's pull back on this. Let's just pull back on this. And with my colleague friends from Quebec, I get it. My mom is French Canadian. I've lived in Quebec, and je sais l'influence de l'Église pendant des siècles, et aussi que c'était vraiment difficile. Donc, il y a parmi beaucoup une résistance, je comprends, parce que le clergé était tellement forte et on ne veut pas ça, on veut la liberté. Je comprends ça. Mais la chose, c'est que il y a des équilibres. Il y a des équilibres. Et je crois vraiment qu'il doit avoir une place de liberté, et on a les lois déjà déjà là, c'est suffit. Donc, j'encourage qu'on ne continue pas avec ce projet de loi. Merci beaucoup.